Hi everybody, it's Ardeshir Radpour from the 501st Legion, Southern California Garrison, Los Angeles Squad. I want to go over today the difference between the original Trilogy Stormtrooper, or TK, the stunt version, and the hero version. These are the former Anovos kits. The new Anovo kits that are coming will probably be from the same mold, so I'll be interested to see what the ABS pull on them will be. But I've had a lot of questions after I posted the first order video that I should do something with the original Trilogy, and here we go. So there are two sets of armor that were used on the original Star Wars, and that was the stunt armor and the hero armor. I think those names are a little bit misleading. It was the first pull armor, and then they needed to make some more cleaner versions of the armor, and then they had a second set that they kept for shiny reasons and more close-up scenes for the hero cases, like the actors like Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill, as well as some of the close-ups of the Stormtroopers. Unfortunately, some of those pulls were done later, so there were some issues with the molds that they pulled the armor from. So I'm going to go over those little bit differences for anybody who's interested in the details between the hero and the stunt. Basically, they're the same Stormtrooper armor. There are a couple differences. One is in the helmets, this being hero, this being stunt, and then as well as in the belt, which we'll get to later, the holster, the way that it's attached. But let's go over the stunt Stormtrooper. The stunt Stormtrooper has a different setup in the teeth, no bubble lenses. The brow is a little bit higher set, where you can see there are bubble lenses. In the hero, the brow is lower set and the teeth here are different, as well as the ears. So I'm going to go over that in detail for you guys. So there are 4 slots that are cut out here. In the hero, the third slot is the last one. The fourth wasn't cut out, and so the frown is a little bit shorter. Now I've extended the gray here on mine just to give it a little bit more detail, but let's just go through this right here. So as you can see, when you are doing this, you have to make sure that the lines are clear and clean on the frown, no overspray or so forth. There's a little extra little notch here that needs to be filled out as well. And the Hovey tips, the mic tips here, there's a white rim on them, and they're white on the inside, where on the hero, they're supposed to be black and black on mesh on them. There were a couple that had the white. I chose to go with this look on this one. On one of my other helmets, it is black on black. It's just going to be your preference. They're not really demanding it right now, but they might pursue that. They both look really good. Just on this helmet, I prefer to have it like this. But on the stunt as well, there's no bubble lenses. As you can see, those lenses are flat, where on the hero, the lenses have a bubbled shape to it. And on the ears, there are 4 bumps here with 1 painted black, where on the hero, there are 3 bumps here and 1 is painted black. The tube straps are the same. These are not the tube straps on the hero helmet. I just chose a little bit thicker, more aggressive look for my own personal taste on this particular helmet. I will show you another hero helmet that I did not do that with. And that's it. So you can see what's going on here. What happened with these 2 helmets here is they're both Anovos helmets, but Anovos did not make a hero helmet. So I ABS slurried and filled that in, took the whole helmet apart. I cut off the ears and put on just this piece, and I put on a new set of 3 bump ears on it. There's an alignment with regards to these ears, but in particular, this line here, it's hard to see from here. This line here has to be in line with the screw and the screw up here. And that's also the other difference in the stunt, is that this has 3 screws, 1, 2, 3, where the hero only has 2, 1, 2. And they're pretty strict about that alignment. So the line will be from here to here in correlation with this line. So that's basically the differences between these helmets. Now, another hero helmet that I did, this is an AM hero helmet, and you can see the tube stripes on this one matches the tube stripes that you see on the other one. Now, all of the insides of my helmets are pretty customized. Everybody always asks me about that, so I'm going to give you guys a little detail on it. Basically, I have two buttons that are underneath the chin, and I can use my chin to operate upper and lower fans. I'll show you guys that in a minute. I can hit the left button, it'll start the upper fans. Hit the lower right button, it'll start the lower fans. I can run them individually. Rarely do I need to use all four, but on hotter days I can. And then this helmet has a microphone here, and then on the inside it has a hearing assist. So the microphone here sends the signal inside here to speakers, and then it helps with the hearing a little bit. It does make things a little bit sharper. It's pretty nice. And then the rest of the electronics in here are from UK's Wrath, awesome, and a ICOM unit. So what I have is just a regular flat brick USB power source in here for the fans. And I have the amplifier from Tony at UK's Wrath, and the Hovey tips actually work from UK's Wrath, and the hearing assist on this from UK's Wrath. And the ICOM is what interprets the voice and makes it analog. So I'll give you guys a little example of that. If I turn this on, if I click as if I'm talking, you get that analog change in voice. So I'm going to take you guys inside the helmet and give you a quick little zoom around on that helmet. And one more thing, all of the wiring that I did myself is all placed within this tube that I heat bent to make it a little bit wider. Goes in. The fans I ordered super cheap off of eBay. They're 10 by there's 10 by 30 or 10 by 40 and 20 by 40 fans. 20 by 40 for the bottom ones, 10 by 40 for the top ones. Top ones are a little bit thinner so they don't rest against your cheek. And I just wired it myself and took a USB cable, cut it, and ran it and attached it to those, and then that attaches to the little custom button box that I made that you guys will see in there, and then that button box sends it out to the battery. The rest of it is all pretty easy wiring, straight from UK's Wrath. So you replace the Hovey tips, and then the wiring runs in, and then you run it back through here, and then you run it into the amp. And then also I have a magnetic, you can't find these anymore, and I don't know why, but it's a magnetic speaker. So what happens is that I run an auxiliary, and then I just let the cable hang there, and the magnet will attach, and it will make the connection. And that can run down to a chest box, just in case I'm at another function, and you just need a little bit more projection than what the Hovey tips do. But I have to say, these Hovey tips are much louder than any of the other Hovey tips I've seen. There's one or two other ones that I don't remember where they were from. I tried it, they weren't that well, but these get quite loud, so it's quite nice. So once again, Hero helmet. This one happens to be the AM, which is a very nice armor kit, by the way. This review just happens to be on the former Anovos kit, but once again, you can see the bubble lenses, and you can see the difference in the ears. And this is the stunt. So once again, 3 screws. There's flat lenses, a little bit higher brow. Now some of the stunt armor did have lower brow. Some of them had it much higher. This is where I prefer it, or lower. So the brow, the lenses, the ear buttons, the 3 screws, and the difference in the nose. And then if you really want to get detailed on the Hovey tips, on the Hero, they'll go all black. It's not mandatory, you don't have to do that. So let's take a look at the inside of the helmet. So let's talk about the neck seals. I have 2 different neck seals that I use. These are the 2 of them. It's just a soft fabric. This is a pretty heavy duty neck seal. it's hard. I don't like the soft cloth. They look like they're fabric type of neck seals. It just doesn't look right. I like the shiny look of the neck seals, the way that they were used on screen. This one is not necessarily, as far as how it's built, the most screen accurate. It's very rigid, but I like it. It feels like you actually have a neck seal on, and it looks like it. It doesn't look like a piece of fabric that goes just up and around your neck. And then obviously the balaclava, you slip over your head. We don't need to go over that. And then the neck seal around the balaclava. And what I do is I tuck this into my undersuit so that the undersuit comes up and there's just a nice, flush, clean look around that. I don't let that hang over. The other neck seal I have here is it's a very special neck seal. This neck seal was gifted to me. We'll leave it at that. But this is a very soft, shiny leather-like material. This is exactly like what is used on screen. So it has a zipper in the back, and for first order, you can wear this with the zipper up front. But for the Stormtroopers, the standard Stormtroopers, you wear it with the zipper in the back. And with this one, if you are going to use a Rogue One style suit, you already have that natural style ribbing in it. If you're gonna do something with the live action clones, you have the nice ribbing that's already in it. It's worn on the outside. But again, for this, I tuck it underneath my suit so that I get a nice clean stick for this neck seal. And it's very, very nice. It's a very comfortable neck seal. So there's a few people out there that make them like this. Novos neck seal is very nice, or Denuo Novo, I should say, because the Novos is gone. So, the former Novos neck seals, if you guys have those, the new Denuo Novo neck seals are really, really nice. They're 11 ring, so they will work for the original Trilogy Stormtroopers. But the original Trilogy were around 7 and 8 rings. So you can definitely get away with that, but it's got that really nice clean look. So I highly recommend that Denuo Novo. Geeky Pinks, I believe, makes a really good neck seal. There's a couple of others out there. I believe Sheaves Emporium makes a really nice neck seal that looks like that, and I believe even Jim Lau might make it. So they're the two choices in neck seals that I highly recommend. Exceptionally screen accurate. Very screen accurate looking. You just kind of want that rubberized looking tubular gasket style look. So there it is on the neck seals. So now let's talk about the gloves. Screen accurate gloves, believe it or not, were just thin rubber chemical or dish gloves. That's what they used in the original Stormtrooper, and they had a rubber hand plate that was on them. So that's how they had it going. A lot of the kits come with hard hand plates. I actually really like those a lot. I think they look clean, they look nice, they match the armor. These can get a little bit dirty, and so they give it that weird look, but that is what's accurate. So this is the way to go if you want higher level approvals. But I'm going to give you guys another option. So I have some gloves that have my hand plates on it. I sew Velcro on there and put the hand plates on. But what I did was I like to use neoprene gloves. And I use the gloves made by Heed. They're very nice, and you have access to your phone should you need it. And then what I did is I ordered some gloves, hand guards from Trooper Bay. They're really nice silicone hand guards, and I glued them on. And you get a very, very nice curved look. And they look like the hard plates, but they're very nice. I like that look and feel of how it's curved and contoured to the hand. And I have a nice glove. I don't have to worry about that sticky, hard feeling that you get wearing the rubber gloves and then trying to pull them off. And you tend to sweat in those. These breathe a little bit more. And I can actually pull my phone out without taking my glove off and use the functionality of it. So I really like the look of this. For anybody interested in a Centurion level, you're going to want to go with these. So I always have both of them there with me, just in case, you know, we need to represent a little bit higher level. But this is the way that I would go with it. And again, these are just Heed neoprene gloves made by Heed, H-E-A-D. I really like them. Those are the only gloves I get. I don't like some of the other gloves. Even the Nomax gloves, I don't like them. I don't like that weird leather feeling in the palm. It gets hard and crusty after a while. These stay nice. They're easy to clean and wash, and I can conform these rubber plates to the back of the hand nice and easy. So we're gonna work our way down. So those are the gloves. We'll go to the suit next. All right, guys, let's discuss the undersuits. Pretty simple, just a pair of simple black two-piece version of the some type of like a thermal or a jogging pant. This happens to have the stirrups on the bottom, and same thing with the top. Just a black, nice lycra top. A lot of guys use the Under Armour. Please, guys, when you use the undersuits, make sure the white Under Armour tag, you either black it out or take it off. It looks really bad when you're in your Stormtrooper outfit and you see Under Armour written. I don't need to be nitpicky about it, but they weren't there in the movie. Then the other option is a standard jumpsuit. Just a one-piece jumpsuit, racing suit, Stormtrooper undersuit, Imperial boots, they all have them. There's a couple of little things that I did with mine. You can't really do this, so I have a plain pair. I put a little Imperial cog there, and I put my name and TKID and Centurion and Expert and all that nonsense on there. But I also, in the pants, I stitched in 2 pockets. One to put my keys in, and one to put my cell phone in, so that if I'm out there, they're tucked in into the thighs of the armor, and I don't have to worry about hiding my keys here or there or something like that. So it's a real nice, easy neoprene pouch you can buy on eBay or Amazon for a cell phone. Stitch it in, and I just use the same thing on the other side. It's just a smaller version for my keys, and at least I know my stuff is there with me. There's a lot of neat little pouches and all that other stuff, but I don't like that extra stuff hanging off of my armor. And I can also choose to stick cards in there if I want. But this is just a one-piece suit. It's a little bit thicker, it's a little bit heavier. This is a super light one. I like to wear the light ones on extremely hot days. On any other day, I wear the one-piece, only because this helps against armor bite a little bit. I don't get armor bite, but I also like to be a little bit proactive. This one you will feel it on, okay? So that's the undersuit. So I'm gonna get a little complicated in this section. There's 2 different torsos set up here. A couple things I wanna go over with you guys that I did a little bit differently on each one of these. So let's just start out with the chest, which in my opinion is one of the most important pieces of the armor to be careful on when you're building it. A couple things I want to give you guys advice on. Do it now as opposed to doing it later. But if you look in the inside of this collar here, I cut out an extra piece of ABS and I added it for strength on both of the suits. And you can see it in here as well. A little bit even more elaborate and detailed cut. But take a look at both chests and look at the shoulder straps. I reinforced those. So before I put these on and glue them on, I take a piece of ABS and I cut it and I line the entire backside of this. Because as you guys know, a lot of people tend to just grab these and yank them up and down. I still tell everyone to be careful. Even though I've added a little bit of strength to this, they can actually damage your armor through here. But at least here, I don't have that nice break that you see in a lot of armors, suits of armor, by people cranking these up. And you can also choose to add a reinforcement here. I did not do that on that. Let's go over the differences between these two outside of that. If you notice, with this one, I used little pieces of ABS and I made my attachment points. That's just to be a little bit OCD about how I want certain things to look. You don't need to do that. I don't even recommend doing it. It's too much work. For something like this, I just used a piece of webbing. In this particular case, I ran the straps this way. In this particular case, I ran them this way. to see which way I liked it better. I like this way better because it keeps it from the strap, the white strap that goes on underneath here, from twisting underneath here and shifting out from underneath the armor. So that's the chest on these. So two different ways of attaching them, okay? You guys decide what's good for you. They both work great, I'll be honest, but I lean a little bit more towards this. With the webbing, it's easy. You just cut the webbing that you need, you put the snap on, you glue it on, sand the back of the area that you're gonna glue that onto. With the ABS, it's a little bit harder because you have to cut the ABS. I like to kind of cut around the edges of it, and then you have to punch a hole in the ABS, and then you have to sand and then attach the ABS. It kind of gives you that really neat, super clean look to it, but there's no need for it really, to be honest with you. I'm gonna go to the back plates. So let's look at how I did the back plate on these suits of armor. And this is quite important again. On the suit with the webbing, as you can see, I did the same thing all the way through. There's webbing. There's little brackets right here. And these brackets, I'll try to display that, are glued to the bottom, and then I reinforced it with some ABS. This will keep it from lifting up. But what these brackets do here, they keep that butt plate from moving out. They keep it from shifting out and overlapping, which is not approvable or acceptable, I should say, in the upper levels. So these are just little round pieces that come down, glue them down. The top doesn't attach because the bottom needs to flex. So the top is open so that it can catch and release, okay? And then just regular webbing across the body. On the bottom, you have two snaps that are not painted. And then let's look at the shoulders. This one, I used two snaps, and on this one, I used one snap. On this one, the rubber band that holds your shoulder straps down is free floating, you can see, so they pop over here. On this one, it's glued in to this strap here so that it's fixed, and it's a wider heavy duty strap, okay? Now let's talk about something else that's extremely important, and that's these three rivets. And those three rivets, they coincide with these three rivets. And they basically align here. So let me attach those real quick. Okay, that alignment for upper level approvals has got to be perfect. I don't know why it has to be perfect, because the prop people weren't too necessarily perfect on that. But they must be aligned perfectly across like that. And there's a very specific measurement. So let me go to the front and we'll start counting off that measurement for you guys. These are very, very important little details. Told you guys this will get a little complicated. These are spaced about 20 millimeters from the top, 10 millimeters from the side, 52 millimeters, 10 millimeters, 53 millimeters, 10 millimeters. Really, the difference between 52 and 53 millimeters is non-existent in my book, so you can go 52 and 52. You just need to make sure that you're 20 millimeters from this bottom line. Now, how does that work with a suit of armor that's a little bit larger? My recommendation would be 20 millimeters, 20 millimeters, 10 from the side, and put this one in the middle. It has to correspond with the back plate, that little kidney plate that comes around on the side. And it's the same thing with this one, okay? I just like to have it even spacing here and here. And then there's a specific measurement for these little buttons for the snaps. I think that's nonsense. I don't do that. I put that where it's gonna hold my belt in the right place. So it depends on where my belt is aligning, and then I make that adjustment so that these snaps are holding my belt in the exact right place. And then I add a little piece of Velcro here and here so that it can hold the center of the belt up, and that belt lining, you want to make sure that it aligns either with the bottom of this button or just along with the bottom line of this box. Sometimes they tell you it has to touch, sometimes you don't have to. Both of those are represented online. So what you want to do is just make sure that your belt is running nice and flush and even across that bottom line at the minimum. And if you wanted to come up and touch that, I have both versions going. There's also the button that's down at the bottom. Once again, this button is not painted. This is not painted. These are not seen. These ones and the corresponding kidney button must be painted white. So, and they're gonna rub off over time, but you can go ahead and paint those both white. So they have to be white and aligned perfectly with each other, okay? You can use Velcro for some of this if you want. Sometimes I'll use Velcro to attach these two pieces, but I also have another set of snaps that go in that pin inside the chest that allows my chest to not pop forward. When it's on your body, it keeps it within a nice flexible area, but it helps hold all of this up, okay? There's one more thing, the armor, the way that it was shipped with Anovos, I don't know about the new Anova, definitely the kit's not. The thighs were attached to the torso section. I don't like to do that for a very good reason, because I don't want all of that pressure of the thighs and your legs pulling to be pulling down constantly on the armor. Anybody who has an original Trilogy TK knows that we want to be careful with this. I don't want any more weight and torque being put up on these shoulder straps. So once again, I'm reinforced here, reinforced through here, and that's how I did this one. This one has little brackets that hold the kidney and the butt plate from shifting in and out. This one does not. And you can see on this one here, it's just nice and clean. There are no extra brackets, but my brackets are on the end to help keep this from pulling out. You can't have that. So you can do it both ways. This one stays nice and flush, and I don't have that issue to deal with at all. Okay, so that's it with the torso section. Oh, by the way, one more thing. These pieces that I use here have a little bit of give, but it's extremely heavy duty. The more give you have in that, the more those buttons will misalign, and it'll also put torque on it. So I'm on these pieces here, I have very little give. In fact, on these ones, they're actually just webbing. They're heavy, heavy duty webbing. So I don't have any give there. On this one, the only place that I have give on is these pieces here and on the back plate. On the back plate, I have a little bit of give, so it's a heavy duty elastic, and that allows just a little bit of flex so that the armor can give a little bit and not pull it apart. The original armors were not put together with a snap system like this. There was a bracket, a bar, and it was screwed in to the actual armor, so with washer and screw. And then you would have this elastic strap come up and go down, and it was all screwed and glued in there like that. Those are awesome. If you choose to go down that path, here's my recommendation. Use a webbing system and replicate those on there. But those do tend to pull and torque on that armor. Remember, that armor didn't have to survive the movie. That armor just needed to survive that scene, or through a couple of scenes, or maybe as a hero piece, make it through the armor. But you could see the damage in the armor. Ours, we put all this time in it. We want it to survive so that we can troop in it over and over and over again. So if you go with that bracket system, I recommend just putting it on for looks, and you can have those screws, and the screws are visible on the armor. You could put that on there. I know a lot of people do that. I don't think you need to do it. I wouldn't do it. And you can't take the armor apart. So this whole thing I can fit into a suitcase. I unsnap everything and I can put it together. And literally, I can tell you guys, I put my suit of armor in just like this and lay everything up on top, thighs and all that stuff, and it's just nice and compact. And I don't have to worry about all that damage. Okay, so next we're gonna move on to the belt. Okay, so on the belts, there is a minor difference in the belts. This is the stunt version. It has 2 rivets here. This is the hero version. It has 4 rivets. The rivets are a specific rivet. It has a hole in the middle so you can actually see it come through. So once again, the hero has the 4 holes in it, and the stunt has the 2 holes in it. I want to go over a couple things on these belts. There are very specific ways that they have to align. For example, these boxes that are dangling down. Let me try to make this as visually easy as possible. When you guys make this belt, these boxes have to align edge to edge on this. So it has to be edge to edge. You can't be hanging in here, hanging way out there. It has edge to edge. There are 3 little caps. Underneath them are rivets that go through to the back plate. And then there's an elastic strap that goes around the back plate on this. The belt can't be a soft material. It has to be a sturdy material. And let me show you what I do with my belt when I build it. And each one of them, for whatever reason, comes out a little bit different. But I put that Velcro piece in the middle, which is right here. And then the straps come down, and I glue the straps down. So both sides, I glue the strap down so that my box is always aligned right, correctly. So I come down and I glue them down. For whatever reason, the belts sometimes align differently. So when I get to, for example, this belt, when I went to align it, I had to make a little cut because it was right where the button was going to be. So regardless of how you do it, just be prepared that you might have to make that little cut or something like that. That doesn't matter. What really matters is where this aligns on this, okay? So another little detail of this belt that we need to go through is these belt boxes. They have to be riveted on, and this is how they want them to look. Comes down, rivets into the box. Why, I don't know. We don't even see it. You could glue it down, you can do whatever you want, but for the higher levels, they want this riveted down. Okay, so this is the belt. Now, I have the torso here, and we can go over how this will attach to it. So, once I get my belt snapped in, so that's snapped in, I have this Velcro line. And you can see how that lines up with the belt. Okay? So that's how that works. Now, once you have attached this, the reason why I kept the torso over here is there is nothing on the bottom. A lot of people will put brackets on this side of the torso, and they'll put Velcro down here. It's not really necessary. This is the only one that's necessary. Because what that will do is that'll pinch the top shut, and the bottom and the back will be open. But that's what your belt is there for. This will be perfectly aligned, but once you put it on, you crank the belt tight until it brings those 2 plates together, and then you have them aligned. And the reason I used to use something down here, and I see a lot of fancy brackets where brackets come out and they align and they do all stuff. If your armor doesn't have the ability to give, it will crack. You will start seeing cracks forming all through here or through here. You're gonna start seeing that. So you kind of want this flex to be there, and that's why they only use that one button snap here. Because the belt is the tension mechanism that makes this come in. So once that belt comes down, you got this snap, you crank that around, and your belt aligned perfectly, and it will hold it down. And on the back, this side, right over left. And when you do Velcro it, you can't be like this. You need it to be flush, nice and flush, okay? And then the thermal detonator comes and sits down over that. The thermal detonator will come and cover that, and this can't be extending out too far out the other side. You really want it to end right where the thermal detonator is, or slightly underneath it, or slightly out of it. But that thermal detonator is what comes down and covers these 2 things. So when it's sitting around and it's around the back, that TD comes and sits right over this and covers all of it. Okay, so if you guys have any questions about the belt, please go ahead and message me. I'll let you guys know. By the way, there are quite a few holsters that are out there. If you guys do get or if you do have the old Novos kits, you're gonna have to really work this. This leather is very stiff. Mine is nice and softened up, but it'll be very difficult for you to get your blaster in and out of it. But it's a nice leather holster. There's some other people that make holsters that are much thinner, softer, but they're much more flimsy. And if you guys are doing Empire Strikes Back, it won't even be screwed into the side. It'll be hanging off on this side. In Return of the Jedi, they came back. So there's just different ways to hook that up. But if you choose to go with the firm one, really work that leather. If it's a softer one, no problem, it'll open up and you can go right through that. Okay, so that is the belt. So let's talk about the thermal detonator. Thermal detonator is another piece that has its own little specs. It's really strange. These screws on the back, they're flat, regular screws. They must be painted black. The original kit comes with this screw much lower, so you have to kind of cut the top of it off. But they're going to be much higher up and closer to the actual plate that's here. They're all the way at the end and then flushed up with this. And then these came bent. I straightened it out. You don't really need the bend in it. And then you kind of have to widen, these pieces out a little bit to accommodate the double thickness of the fabric back there. And then the thermal detonator just goes on the back of the belt and sits like that. Okay, so the thermal detonator, you want to make sure, I've seen people put these on upside down, the circle pieces at the top. This comes down and is flush against the edges, and then you need a nice little divot in there. It's pretty simple piece of the kit to put together, but a lot of times people get this wrong, and they'll use the wrong screws. So they need to be a flat, regular screw, painted black, and this thing needs to be cut. So that's the 411 on the thermal detonator. I hate calling these things thermal detonators, but I guess they're detonators now. Once we saw them launching out of that cannon, I guess it's a thermal detonator now. So that's that. So thermal detonator, belt, conjunction. And by the way, I will be lining the back of this thermal detonator with some white Velcro, and that just helps keep the aluminum from scratching the back of the armor. All my other ones are aligned. This is one that I just made, but they're all lined up, and it helps not only to keep that armor from scratching up and rubbing up, but it helps kind of keep it in place a little bit. So I recommend putting a little bit of the female side of the Velcro on the back of this, and I'll help you guys out a little bit. Okay? Okay, so the next piece we want to go through are these arms, the full complements of the arms. There are specific ways that these are supposed to be worn. If your kit has this right curve on that shoulder belt, this is a shoulder belt that goes on the left. You can actually see a couple of the Stormtroopers wearing this shoulder belt on the right as well, but they have it on the left as well. It's almost like they were just piecing it together. But in general, they had this slight little curve to the right, and on the left they didn't. It was straight up and down. One thing I will tell you guys is that with my shoulder bells, they look straight, but there's a slight curve in them. I cut it up into here. It allows that shoulder bell to get closer to the shoulder tab, and when it gets closer, it helps you close that gap up. So you'll see a wide gap between people's shoulder bells, and then they do this and that wide gap is still there. It's because they need to bring this up while this still bows out, and it will fit in there nice and smooth. I used a heavy duty elastic on mine. I want it to last, and it's glued in. Once again, there is a snap on here and a heavy duty, very heavy duty elastic that will snap up into the armor. This shoulder bell coincides with a very specific forearm and a specific bicep piece. The bicep piece on the left has this little dimple in it. If you can see, there's a little dimple in it. And then there's also these hooks. They're not mandatory, but you can put them in. They were there. They helped keep the this elastic in place on the armor. And then for mine, once again, there's a heavy duty elastic band that snaps in. It snaps in this case on both of them. On the other suit, it's fixed here and it snaps into this one. So there's that attachment. On a lot of the kits, this is a very high cut piece. I cut mine to fit so that it doesn't jab in underneath my armpit. And then I make sure that these give me enough room as well. So I cut the bottom to fit as well. And these are supposed to align like this, as well as when you are putting it on, these are supposed to align. So there's an alignment there, and there is an alignment there. Now, I have multiple cuts on these forearms. This particular set here, I cut an angle in mine because this is the one that I do a lot more movement on. On the other suit, I have a much straighter cut, and then there's a deep cut to give me movement. But this forearm matches this forearm in the cut so that there's a uniformity and I can get that freedom of movement. This left forearm has a raised ridge here. That's mandatory on the left side one. And then I also cut down an angle here, always on the inside, so that you can get that freedom of movement on it, okay? So that just allows me to be able to really this way, really flex my arm this way, as well as bring my wrist in. And to do the same thing with this one. Now this side doesn't have the dimple, the hook is still there. And then once again, I make it so that the cuts are within here. And I'll show you that if I'm wearing this and it's here, I can bring my wrist in as well as I can get a full movement. So I have a full range of motion. I can reach and touch anything that I want. I don't have any restrictions there. And I keep the outside long so you have that super nice, long, sleek forearm look that you want. You don't want a snubby looking forearm on it. And then on the inside of the biceps as well as the forearms, you can't really see it. Once I've put the cover strip on the inside, I take a strip of white Gorilla duct tape and I just fill in, cover that seam in there. And it just gives it a little extra support. It gives my armor, something kind of opens up here. At least I know something has it on the inside. So once again, the forearms, they snap in and they hang just like that. So that this is helping keep that arm from moving, and then you can flex in there. So that's the forearms. We're going to move on to the legs next. Okay, so I want to go over just two slightly different builds in the thighs that I built. They're both attached by Velcro to the inside, and I attach my thighs via a belt. So this being the right thigh, this being the left thigh, belt holds it up. But you can see these cuts and this angles on this one. And on this one, you can see that it's not quite as extreme and it's a little bit ergonomic. This one gives me a little bit more movement. Also with this one, I snap them in so that it's not necessarily the most accurate thing, but what it does is it allows me to jump in and out of the suit and also to make the adjustments, because with this one, I can really crank it down. It's also attached on the inside at two different points with Velcro. So if for whatever reason, it's not sitting right, or I've got armor shifted on me, I can actually move the Velcro around, unvelcro and move it around, and give myself a little bit more flexibility on that. So I'm just gonna unsnap this, show you guys the belt. It's just a heavy duty tactical belt. That's it. The reason why I use heavy duty is because there's no flex in it. There's some stretch in it, but it doesn't bend down. And then I can hang the buckles from there. So let's go over the left thigh. How I built this particular set is, for me, movement is the most important thing. So they all have that, what I call stunt cut in the back. And it corresponds with the same cut on the back of the shins. And then I make sure that my measurements are always equal, so that whatever this measurement is here, it corresponds with what's on the other thigh. And that's actually very difficult to do because the thighs are, and you'll see in a minute, they're a little bit different because they have the ammo boxes on the other one. And then I always make sure that this is super flush. Once again, this isn't a suit I'm putting on. I'm just gonna go shoot a scene for a couple hours, and if it breaks, it breaks. I'm gonna wear this for hours, and I can rub my finger on the inside of this, and it's nice and smooth. So I take a file, and a very soft file, and I file everything down. So it's bull-nosed, nice and smooth. There's no catches on it, even on this little seam back here. It is smooth as smooth can be. I'm very, very particular about that. So all these angles are nice and smooth, as well as, you know, when you come up and around these edges, whatever that look is that you want, I want it nice and smooth. These ones have a sharper cut than the other one, so that I can have a little bit more flexibility. I can actually run in my suits like quite effectively, like sprint. You can't do that in the ABS original versions because they jab up into you. Now, let's go into what I was talking about. If you align these two, you see that this one hangs lower because of that ammo box. Before I put this ammo box on, I make sure that these two align perfectly when it comes to these measurements, so that they're spot on, exactly the same as each other. They both have those stunt cuts, and so the outside, the inside, all of those are measured down equally. And then I will put on the ammo box. A couple of different ways of doing this ammo box. It's supposed to be flush to this end as well as this, or if there's spacing here like this, it should exist on this side as well. I don't really care about that. I like the front to be pretty even so that it looks nice. This is about as close as I could get it to being even on this one, which is good for me. So if I have a little bit of a gap here, who cares? They were there on the other ones, on the original ones. What's important to me is that all of these lines are nice and flush. Same thing, you know, in the back, if you can see the way that it cuts up, here will correspond with the butt plate on the armor so that it sits nice and smooth. And in this particular case, I wanted my thighs to be nice and equal there as well, so that, and they're a little bit cut a little bit lower, so that the thigh I can move forward when I'm running and actually really get some good movement. So one last thing on these are split rivets, like the rivets that are on the side, and they must be painted white. And I bring this cover strip all the way down. This butts up against it for me, and I glue this down. I don't like this potentially opening up, because once it comes down, it gets caught on something and it rips it. You're kind of done. You may be replacing this, you may be replacing parts of your armor or making repairs by putting ABS support or whatever in it. Once I know that mine is nice and secured, I know it's good to go, and it's just a really nice clean look. So those are your thighs. They're probably, in my opinion, the thighs and shins are two of the harder pieces to make on this armor, because once you make it and you put it on, you realize, oh my God, they actually don't fit me. So you have to cut them down and shave them down so that you maintain the integrity of the look of the thigh, especially the upper piece, but that you also have some flexibility in it. So once I put this whole thing together, there's considerable amount of cut down that I do on mine. And as well as on the forearms, I don't have any return edges. On my biceps, my shoulder bells, my forearms, I don't have any return edges on it. Those are all weak points. And once it splits, that crack can run up into your armor. So I do the same thing with the thighs. I remove these return edges on it. Because one, I can flex this. You can't do that with return edges. Once the flex is there, it'll pop a little crack and it'll move. But it also gives me a little bit more freedom to be able to curve and shape the outside of the arm, the thighs, or the inside of the thighs exactly to the shape that I want it. With the return edges, you just don't have the ability to do that. And again, like I said, for me, it's important to be able to really function and move in this armor as opposed to just stand there. So you might want to take that into consideration. I'm just going to re-emphasize that. I'll show you the return edges that I have on my shins, but that's it. I don't have return edges on the tops of my thighs, on my forearms. You're supposed to not have any return edges on the inside. I don't have them on the outside as well. I don't have it on the bottom or the top of my biceps or the bottom of my shoulder bells, especially the shoulder bells, guys. Once that flexes, you're done. So I highly recommend removing those return edges. I'll show them to you on the thigh, and on the bottom there's a return edge, but there's no movement here. This is fixed solid. I don't have to be concerned about that. So the bottom of the shin, the bottom of the thighs, and the top of the shins are the only places that there are return edges. So let's take a minute and take a look at those. All right, guys, so we're gonna go over shins real quick. I have two different sets of shins out here. I just kind of want to show you guys. This is the set that came with the Anovos. This is the right, this is the left. This is an extra set that I got from Trooper Master. I really like these. He used to be able to match these to the Anovos armor. He doesn't anymore. These are a little bit more aggressive looking. And what I did with these ones is there is a little bit of a forming that I did on the bottom, and that helps it sit on my boot. And I just kind of wanted to point that out. You can see that. I don't really recommend doing that. If you don't know what you're doing, it's going to cause you a problem. But this hunkers down on my boot, and where that joint is in the foot, and it really grabs it, and you can see it. So these are the two, and they're quite nice. So there was a point where you couldn't get matching parts because of the ABS colors. That's what I did. And once again, you can see the back is cut like we were talking about, and this has been formed to sit snug. These are closed by Velcro. The original ones were connected via a bra hook system. I don't like those because they rub and eventually they loosen up, so your shins never really stay too snug on the boot. And you can actually see it as they're running through the tanted. You can see their backs of their shins opening up. It's just not a very good look for me. So I'm gonna go with the Velcro. And then this is the Anovo set. And this hasn't been, I left this just to show you guys. I haven't heated that up and gotten it to come over like the other one. So you can see how that still stays open. It's just the way that angle is, and I want you guys to be able to see that. Eventually, what I'll do is I'll heat this up, and then that will come and flush and close like that. So this one's got a little bit tighter gap. I have a snugger fitting a look on this suit of armor. So the gap is a little bit small. There's a huge debate on which one you use, which piece is it, 23 or 24 or 27 or whatever. I simplified that for myself by using the two long outside pieces. And that helps it drop a little bit more. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. I round these edges out, put the Velcro on underneath, cut these, and everything is super smooth. It'll catch your armor, it'll jab, it'll hurt. And I make this very flush, like I was showing you guys on the other one. So this is the one for the right. It does not have the sniper plate. It sits like this on the shin, okay? So return edge there, they never touch, and it gives me the flex to be able to do what I need to do there, and they're both nice and smooth. Now, this one is interesting because a lot of people have a problem with this. They have a problem with this sniper plate going underneath. So what I recommend doing is putting a piece of foam here that'll pull this in, and you put a piece of foam here that'll push that out. And instead of it being like this, it allows it to sit like this, okay? Once again, you can see I haven't yet formed this so that it's nice and snug. But you can see the cut that's in the back. And that little bit, believe it or not, it does allow when your legs turn to do this. It does allow it to reach a little bit more so you get a lot more flexibility. I can actually squat down in my armor enough to pick things up. Let's go over something else with regards to this particular Shin. I like my sniper plate to be nice and flush. It is actually flush and touching with this. It's running the same length, okay? So for me, that runs nice and flush. This cover strip runs all the way to the top. People stop it here. Don't do that. Let it run all the way to the top. And same thing with these. It's glued down, nice and flush. There's no give. And you guys can see how nice and clean and elegant that looks. It's a very graceful looking line. Okay? The second thing is that this line is very important. Don't trim this sniper plate until you have it on here, and then trim it to the shape and look that you want. But technically these lines have to be the same, okay? It's not gonna be exactly the same, but what they want is they wanna see that fluid line. And you wanna make sure that this is straight up and down as well as this, okay? So you wanna make sure that this sniper plate looks like it's part of this, you know, and it's built. So once I put that on, it's glued back here. It's glued all the way through here so that this is nice and flush. There's no risk of anything happening. This is all really nice. And then in order to get this to stick, you have to really clamp it down. And I use CA glue on it. If you use CA glue, you better know what you're doing. Because once it grabs, it's gonna grab, and that's all there's to it. A lot of people use E6000, great glue. I highly recommend it because then you can heat it up and take it apart. I just like the strength of the CA glue better. But once you put it on, you're pretty much on, and that's all it's gonna be. It's only gonna take a few seconds to really dry, where CA glue, you have to leave it on overnight, and that takes some time. So there it is with the shins, and then I'll be back with the boots and show you how the shins actually work with the boots. All right, guys, so the Stormtrooper shoe, basically a Jodhpur boot. It's a riding boot. Nice white color, old school disco looking shoes. Elastic, you slip your foot in with the two grips. These are from Imperial Boots. These are pretty spot on exactly to what they were, as close as we can get them to it, but they're pretty much it. I love these boots. I see them on set being used for any original trilogy, except for the Rogue One armor uses the zip-up version now. But these are a great boot. There's no seam. I think from Tasma or wherever it is makes that, there's that seam. That's not approvable for anything other than basic. I don't even know if it's approvable basic anymore. But let's go through the shin on the boot. And you can see the outer side, how that looks. Now, some of the original Stormtroopers had a little bit more square cut here. That's a great look. I actually really like that look. Maybe the next set I will build that way. But I like to build my shins so that when they're on the boot, they are nice and flush, and it looks like it is actually part of that boot, and they should look nice and elegant like that. Okay, so you see a nice long outside on both sides, and then the shorter inside. Now, also, if you guys look at the cut, that is what helps keep the boot, or the shin, I should say, from rotating, because it naturally wants to come and sit where it's supposed to sit because of that. So take good note of that as you guys are building this, because it will come and fall into place and help keep it in place. Now, there is something else you guys can do, and that's put a little piece of Velcro here, a little piece of Velcro there, and I'm considering doing that. I don't know yet, but that'll help keep this down so that it doesn't rise up your leg. So you'll see a lot of Stormtroopers with their leg, their shins rising up, and then they do this. So that'll help it keep it down. I don't have that problem. I know some people have put stirrups on the inside. That's way too much of a pain in the neck. So if need be, stitch on a piece of Velcro here, and it comes down, and then that's it. And then you're good to go. So that's how those are supposed to look. Okay? Once again, the Imperial boots, they're nice leather. They're super nice. They come with a really nice insole. They do. I have found for longer troops, I replace that insole with a little bit more gel insole. And that's if I have like a 3-mile parade, like the Hollywood Christmas parade or something like that. And we've been standing around for 2 hours, before we get going. We get up and we line up. I find that there's just a little bit of weight on me. So I turn and replace that. Okay, so you guys might want to take that into consideration. Those are the boots. All right, guys, let's talk about blasters, and I'm going to have some opinions here. All 3 of these blasters that I have out here, I used on Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is my rubber old Praetorian E11. It's got the coils on it. I put a little lens in it with a reticle in it. It's solid. It's filled. This thing can take a beating. This one went through the sequence with the water when the window busted in with me. So it's just a standard. Hellhounds makes them, Praetorian, if you guys can find it. It's a great blaster. There's somebody else that makes them out there. Anyways, it'll come to mind. The second blaster is probably one of my favorite blasters. It's lightly distressed. I lightly distress them all. This is from Quest Design, and I love this blaster. Cap opens up. I actually put in a spring. I've put in a reticle and so forth, coils, and it's lightly distressed, bronzing looking on the scope. This blaster is probably one of my favorite blasters. And I'll get back to the detail of that. As you can see, this is cut out, so all of these details are there. It's a rail versus the rubber one. And then this is one from Shepperton, and I love it. It's beautiful. But this one's got a neat little feature in it. It's actually on, so you can hit it. And it actually counts down. So this is a really fun blaster for me. I didn't really use this. I didn't shoot it like that on set, but I did carry it just for fun so I can have a neat little thing. This blaster was made for me in the UK, blast effects in it and so forth. So I really love this blaster, but it's very light. It's a very lightweight blaster, so I only carry it at specific events that I kind of really want to wow somebody with regards to that. So it's a neat little thing for me. This is the one that made my childhood come true, because you didn't really think about a blaster, and then you've got this one that functions. But what I wanted to talk to you guys with regards to the blasters is, and there's a lot of confusion. You see Stormtroopers holding them this way and that way, and there's all kinds of confusion that was going on. Guys, the blasters are left-handed. Stormtroopers carry their blaster left-handed. They can fight with it, both hands. This is the conclusion we should all come to, that if you're fighting and you're engaging, you can do that. But when Vader or the Emperor are around, it's left-handed. Okay, you can carry it like this or like to whatever, however you want, but it's left-handed. And the reason for that is because of this magazine that went in it. So it sat that way against their bodies. They can present it. Watch the original trilogy, and you will see every single time they're there, the blaster is held left-handed. So on Obi-Wan, there were cases where we saw blasters being right and left-handed, and it was left to where when they were engaging in combat and so forth, or if they did not know that Lord Vader was there, they were okay in the right hand, but when he was there or Palpatine would be there, we would go left-handed. So we started making those changes in it. There's one sequence when Vader walks in to confront Reva. The blasters are in the right hand. That's okay. We can assume that the troopers didn't know, but I was very insistent on making sure that the troopers had their blasters left-handed. Second thing, when you have your blaster Guys, please don't do this. It's not accurate. It's ugly. It's horrible when you see Stormtroopers do this. They do this at Galaxy's Edge for other reasons. It's not for safety and all that other nonsense. It's the way their comms, I guess, communicate or whatever. If you want a high ready, get your finger off the trigger. If you want a high ready, it's tucked here. It's close to your body. It's either here or down, but it's never exposed enough. Stop coming around. I don't care where you are, UK, Germany, Spain, California, Florida. It doesn't matter. Don't do this. It looks ridiculous. It just looks like a ha-ha type of a thing. And I've been a stickler about correcting that. So please do Star Wars and Lucasfilm and yourself and the 501st and the rest of your Stormtrooper FISD brothers the respect of holding your blaster properly. If you want to switch so that one person is holding it this way and away from somebody, totally fine to do that. If you have people here you don't want to point at them, totally fine doing that, but don't do this stuff. This is an exposed position. Nobody in the military, nobody does that at all, period. This is exposed. If you want a high ready, you have no choice, keep it nice and tucked in. Okay? It doesn't matter what arm it's in, just keep it nice and tucked in. All right, guys, so there is the 411 on the original Trilogy Stormtroopers. That applies with some changes to the armor. Obviously, for Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, their armor began to change a little bit. Differences in helmet, differences in Return of the Jedi in the body armor and the helmet. So this is original Trilogy for A New Hope, Star Wars, the original Star Wars, stunt and hero armor kits, okay? And these were the Anovos kits, and then I showed you guys the my AM helmet as well. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it's a help. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Long live the Empire, long live the 501st.